Aloha mai kako. Thank you for taking the time to view this video. So today we'll be talking about letter of recommendations. And you know, a good letter of recommendation can really give you a scholarship application an edge over competing applications. So when it comes to letter of recommendations, why do you need one? And what are they? So a letter of recommendation can highlight your characteristics, your accomplishments, your qualities that the scholarship application may not ask about. Um, and sometimes they're required for your scholarship application. And so in this case, we focus a lot on the UH Common Scholarship application process. And so when we're talking about letter of recommendations and how many and who to ask from, generally the focus is coming from the Common Scholarship application for University of Hawaii, but you can also use this information for other scholarships. So when it comes to letters of recommendations, who can you ask? So teachers and instructors are one of the foremost popular suggestions for asking letters of recommendations. But you can also ask your employers, current and previous. You can ask your counselor and or a mentor. Even religious leaders, maybe your Sunday school teacher or the pastor of your church or the leader of your Bible study group. You can also ask organization leaders or community leaders, but you don't want to ask relatives for a letter of recommendation. What will you need to know about this person who you might want to ask for a letter from? So first, we start making a list of who you might want to ask. You'll need to know their email addresses, their phone numbers, their title or positions, and then for which scholarships might you want to use this person for. So those are all things to consider. You should pay attention to the focus of the scholarship when thinking about letters of recommendations and who you would ask a letter from. So some scholarships might focus on community service, some might focus on academics, some might focus on sports. So if it's an academic scholarship, you likely want to get that from a teacher. If it's a community service, you might want to get that from someone you might have been working with in the community. So you want to think about these things when you're considering who to ask. When to ask for a letter of recommendation. So you should ask as soon as you know that you may potentially be applying to that specific scholarship. Usually though, 5 to 6 weeks before the deadline that the scholarship is due is a good timetable to ask for a letter of recommendation. You never want to wait till the last minute. Never wait till the last minute. But with that said, keep in mind that teachers are especially busy in the spring, and you are likely one of many students asking for a letter of recommendation. So how should we ask for a letter of recommendation? Well, it goes without saying that you should ask nicely and timely, meaning give them enough time, like we talked about on the previous slide, and professionally. If you wait until the last minute or don't ask nicely, the person you're asking will likely be less willing to do you this favor, let alone write nice things about you, right? So if you don't ask nicely, they might just say no. You might get a bad letter, or worse, you might not get a response at all. So first and foremost, make sure you ask. Secondly, send a formal written request asking for the letter of recommendation. So you might see your teacher in class and ask for a letter of recommendation, or you might be chatting with your teacher or sending an email or some correspondence about class and just asking real quick, hi, can I get a letter of recommendation from you, or something to that effect. And if they say okay, you want to follow that up with a formal written request. These days, emails is the best way to do that. So when you're writing that formal request, what should you include? So be sure to include what organization the scholarship is coming from. Also, let your recommender know how to send that letter of recommendation and how it should be submitted, depending on the scholarship. They'll ask you to email it. A lot of that is electronic now, letters of recommendation, but sometimes they might still require you to mail it to them via the postal service. In that case, you probably should provide an addressed envelope where the scholarship letter should go, and then stamps as well for your recommender. The other thing to consider is to include the length, like if there are word limits, if they only want a recommendation letter not to exceed 500 words, you want to make sure you include that in that email. And any other instructions that's specified by the scholarship. And request it be on letterhead of the organization. So don't forget to include the deadline date. That's very important. You should also probably include details about yourself in the letter, like your full name and your contact information. A brief history of how you know each other. How do you know this person who you've asked to write the recommendation letter? If it's a teacher, you may want to help to remind them, I really enjoyed your English 100 class last spring when I was enrolled, or we worked on this project together, or I was very excited to be able to join you on that community service project we did last summer. You want to mention a little bit of this so that it helps bring to mind for that person writing for you who you are, and that'll help them to have more to write about. Explain to them why you need a letter of recommendation, what the focus of the scholarship and letters should be. Sometimes organizations are very specific. They might want someone to write to them about you and your community service, or how you are as a student academically, or how you perform. Are you a leader? So if those details are included by the scholarship organization, then you want to make sure that your recommender has that information. You also want to include information about your achievements. Provide your resume. That will help the writer of your letter to have the ability to include more above and beyond what they might know about you. And help to summarize your volunteer work and your extracurricular activities so that, again, they'll have more to write about in your letter. So here we have a sample letter of recommendation. I'm just going to give you a minute to take a look at this, read it over. You might want to come back to this after the video is done if you haven't been able to get through all of it. But in essence, this includes everything that we talked about on the previous slide about the components to include in a letter of recommendation. So what's next after you do that formal request? Well, you want to follow up. You want to give it a few weeks log into your scholarship portal. Most of these happened electronically nowadays. So definitely for the UH Commons Scholarship application, you want to log back in to your online portal and check on your letters of recommendations. It will tell you if it's done. It will tell you if it hasn't been done. And so you have to consider your timing. Do you have enough time to send a follow-up to this person and give them a little bit more time to write that letter for you and respond? Or might you have to think about putting someone else on your application to get your letter of recommendation? Also, you want to be sure to say thank you to those individuals who have completed your letter of recommendation. So let's just go over the letter of recommendation timeline. So today, you should start making a list of individuals to ask. Get their names, what scholarship you could use them for, their emails, their phone numbers. You would want to, if you have to go back to the previous slide, to get the listing of all those components that you should have to make this list. And then from October to December of 2020, you should be doing those formal requests for letter of recommendations. Again, go back to that slide if you need to read through that sample. From December 2020 to January 2021, this is again where you want to do those follow-ups. Log back in, check to see if your letter of recommendations have been completed. And if they haven't, send another message to the person you've asked to do your letters. And also start thinking about whether or not you want to add someone else's name as a recommender for you. In February 2021, you should be sending your thank you notes to your letter of recommendation. So those people who wrote those letters of recommendations for you. And then just keep in mind for the UH Commons Scholarship application, the letter of recommendation deadline is March 8th, 2021 by 4 o'clock. And so the system will be sending a reminder when they see that a letter hasn't been submitted for you. But you can, again, check for yourself by logging into your account. And you should also do a follow-up. So even though the system will send a follow-up email, you should really do your own follow-up as well. So my last point is if you do get the scholarship, be sure to share that with the person who has written your letter for you. I promise you, they want to know. And then thank them again. You can take that opportunity to thank them and just share with them that you've received the scholarship. This will not only make them feel good that they've done something to help you, but this will also help you to maintain communication, because very shortly, in a few months, you'll be doing scholarship, applying for scholarships again, and you would want to ask them again, probably for a letter of recommendation. This helps to keep communication open. So mahalo nui for watching today, our letter of recommendation video. If you have questions, please contact us at the UH Maui College Financial Aid Office. Our phone number is 984-3277, or you can email us at Maui, MAUIFA, @hawaii.edu. Mahalo.